lots of people coming on here. We're going to actually record this as well, and just upload it to our Instagram TV so that people can take a look at it later if they want. But yeah, we'll just get started. It's funny because I did this for a living. I was a reporter for a long time, did journalism, and I'm shaking off the rust here because I'm trying to, I want to do you justice because you're such an inspiring person. But for those of our followers that don't know much about you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, again, I can only say thanks so much, Leslie Ann, for having me. I'm completely honored. This year's a great opportunity to speak and share. Well, a little bit about my background. I served in the Canadian military for 24 years, and I served in the Special Forces as a Navy bomb disposal diver. I served overseas from Hawaii to Afghanistan. And then I got out in the March of '07. But to serve in those elite military units, it comes at a cost, right? It costs me mentally, physically. I had to be in great shape to handle the daily rigors of the job for sure, but still, you're responsible for people's lives. And so I tried to get off medications, or in order to deal with it, the doctor said, hey, you're just going to have to learn to deal with it, but here's some pills for it. And then when I got out of the military, I wanted to get off the medications. And so I went to my civilian doctor, and she said, Brent, a lot of people try to get off those meds, but you should just stay on them, but without an exit strategy, right? So in that time, we didn't really understand mental illness like we do today, right? So when I got out of the military, I took up things like yoga, meditating, just out of a natural instinct. I was just drawn to it. I went online and just started to study. I studied I just went online for 3 months and just took 3 months off and just started to see what I was truly, truly interested after serving 24 years. And I was just really drawn to all the poets, prophets, professors, painters, physicists, politicians, padres, priests, parsons, preachers, performers, playwrights, philanthropists, podiatrists, pirates, philosophers. And but I just found that listening to all those amazing people, because we are literally standing on the shoulders of giants, that these great people wrote things down. Everybody from Hermes, Aristotle, Newton, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Ronald McDonald, Deepak Chopra, Einstein, Confucius, Emerson, Thoreau, Lao Tzu, Radin, Campbell, and people like Wim Hof currently today. So these amazing people have really wrote it down and talked about how to live well. And so that's what, when I got out of the military, that's what really I was drawn to, was the application of life and the mechanism of our perception. So perception is reality, right? And so I just really kept, and I haven't stopped studying. I keep reading. I read this morning. I got up, meditated, and just really found the things that worked for me, the breadcrumbs, the cosmic nuggets of life that these great sages, mages, magi, sifus, sufis, medicine men, medicine women, shaman and shaw women have been talking, witches, warlocks, and wizards, right, have all been saying since the beginning of time. And the commonality of their message, I find, is that we're all connected, right? That what we put out to the universe is what we get back, what we focus on, we attract, and what we resist persists, So we are participating with nature, whether we understand it that we are or not, And so if we're very left-brained and very, we've been living in boxes for a couple hundred years, really disconnected from nature. But we are nature, and the very cells of our body come from the very earth in which we inhabit. And every atom of carbon comes from an exploded sun. So there's, life's been happening for a long time. So I've just really found, for me, I have traveled from bombs to beliefs, in the sense that now I really get it, life for myself. I understand my participation with life. I used to hear people say that nature speaks to them. I thought, well, that's kind of weird and cliche, but now it does. And it's just by being open, having the ears to hear and the eyes to see, because there is, she loves us unconditionally, and she loves us so unconditionally that she'll let us just crap the bed, for this lifetime or many lifetimes. But when we're ready to step up and live our best life, or just live, she's right there for us. Because I love what Lau Russell says is, life or nature will work with us, but not for us, and if it is to be, it's up to me. And so that's kind of been my journey. So now I love it. I love that I've come this far on my journey, and just to, again, it helps me, meet people like you, and we get, this great community out of it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when Amanda and Meg and I started this back in the fall, it was with the intention to just spread as much knowledge as we could. We all truly believed that, and truly still do believe that, there is power in numbers. And, we're all here to inspire and motivate, encourage, support, love each other. And like you said, we're all one. And, you know, um, now, we've thought about doing these lives because it's a great opportunity to showcase people like yourself. And we've, been throwing around some other ideas as well, because knowledge is power and words are powerful. And, I guess the one thing that drew me to the journalism all those years ago was that I love people's stories. I love understanding why people think the way they think, and, just where life brings them. And you have such an interesting story. And I want you just to take a quick second and tell us, because we had a message the other night, and when I remember when I met you not too long back, you told me a story about how you met your beautiful wife, and we had we had I guess a question the other night when we did a Q&A, that was, how difficult it is for people who have such a strong spiritual sense to find someone that, they can connect with. And I want to tell the story about how you met your wife, because that's such a cool story. So much synchronicity and coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence. So please tell everybody about that.
Well, thank you, Leslie. It's I love this story. Again, I met my dream girl, right? And so one of my favorite things to share is, my dream job, my dream spouse, my dream house. So
Yeah.
for my dream spouse, I was in a relationship that was 4/5 good. The four that was four was great, but there's that 1/5 that just wasn't working out. I love to entertain, love to have people over. I like to go for walks after supper, things like this. And so that my partner at the time was in the military and went on deployment. And so I was at home, and I'm in the backyard, and I'm burning kindling in a chimenea, and I'm just really questioning my reality. And I'm just saying, is this what life's about? Do you have to settle for 4/5? And again, the four was fabulous, but that 1/5 just wasn't working out, because I'm a people person. I love to have people in my life.
Right.
And so I was just burning kindling in the chimenea, and then I'm just saying, is this it? Do we have to settle? But Hallmark says you can have 5/5, and they have a whole industry on 5/5. So I thought, right. I just put it out there. I said, well, if I could have 5/5, what would my 5/5 look like? And it turned out to be a list of 10. And the first one was a person with a sense of humor, someone outgoing, someone vivacious, someone that I was physically attracted to, someone who would pick me up when I'm down, because I'm not always the most chipper pencil in the box. I wanted someone to have their own art, because I'd had 19 years of relationships, and I always had to make the decisions of where to go and all that stuff, what we're going to do. But so I wanted someone that was also a self-starter, and I wanted to have someone who came from a large family and someone who also had their own art. Right. But this is what I wanted, because I had my own art, so I need my own quiet time. I need my time to work on my stuff, so that's why I wanted them to have their own time, so I could have my time, right? And then, so through the jigs and the reels, I was at that time I was a Navy bomb disposal diver, and I was on a leadership course. So I was in Toronto for a month, learning how to drive recompression chambers and supervise that. And we spent a month in Quebec City learning about mine countermeasures as a real world job. And then our next 4 months was going to be in Halifax. And so we drove the 9 hours from Quebec City to Shearwater, and we dropped off our bags. And I said to the guys, okay, guys, we know that I can't remember the name of that place, but we said we have to go to my favorite bar in Halifax, which is Cheers, because they have the amazing, most live, funkiest music in town. And so as we drive there, there's the three of us, Buffer, Pico, and I. And the neat part was that there was Rockstar parking right in front of Cheers. So we stopped the car, we went inside, and I said to the bartender, I said, barkeep, three double dark and dirties. And so as we're standing there, Cheers, welcome. We're now going to spend the next 4 months in Halifax. We made it. Walks in the most amazing set of eyes, and just like captivating, walks right up to me, and she asked me, would you like to dance? And I said, certainly. So I set down my drink, but that was the last time I saw my drink. And we danced.
I see your wife the good, wonderful, beautiful part. And she's telling you the name of the place was the lower deck.
That's right. Yes, yes, it was the lower deck because the lower deck was going to close at 12:30, and it was already 11 or 12, and we was already 11:30. So we just had to go where now the party is continues. So then we hung out for the next 4 months, and 2 months into this 4 month fling, she asked me, "So what are you looking for in a partner?" And I said, "Well, I've got a list." And she goes, "You've got a list? Well, that's kind of creepy. What's your list?" And well, so I told her my list, and she says, humbly, she just goes, "Well, too bad that we're not hooking up because I think I'm pretty much all your list." And I said, "Well, I think you are pretty much on my list, but it can never happen. I live in Ottawa, you live in Halifax. But, through the jigs and the reels, as I've learned, you just got to have faith,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And keep your eye on the ball, and that's it.
Well, and here you are today, happy as a
Yeah.
lark. The funny thing is, I said that too when we did the question and answer the other night. I said, I'm a big believer. There's this old Chinese proverb that says, there's an invisible string between people, and it doesn't matter what time is meant, geography, timing, distance, all that stuff is just, it's going to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
cool because I don't believe in coincidence. I truly don't. So. And when you did tell me that story, I really loved it. So it came in my mind just now because I was thinking, oh, I want him to tell everybody about that. But I want you to talk a little bit about, the cold exposure that you do, because I think you mentioned when we first started that you truly believe in like alternative, holistic approaches to health and well-being. And I'm going to tell you, like stripping half naked and jumping into an ice pond doesn't look like fun to me. But what are the benefits behind it? Like, what are the health promotion side of the whole thing, other than
Well,
being absolutely this big crazy cat?
well, the neat part is, firstly, it takes an amazing selfie.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get that out of the way. But now we know from research that the body doesn't like to be sedentary. We
Mm-hmm.
try to seek for comfort in our Western world, keeping our rooms and our houses at 72 degrees, right? So we're no longer being chased by lions, tigers, or bears, but nor are we're not being shocked anymore. But now
Right.
what science is showing is that through hormetic stresses, either through heat or cold, we're able to shock the body, and the body responds well to shock, like weightlifting, right? So we
Right.
can see the health benefits of exercise in the muscle. What we do is when we do the cold and the breath work that goes along with this, because I study a method of, I study under Wim Hof. He's a
Mm-hmm.
Dutchman from the Netherlands called the Iceman, and because he says anyone can. So he's
Right.
broken 26 world records, 27 now, to
Wow.
cold exposure and stuff like that. So I've learned his method. I was a Wim Hof instructor for a year, but now I'm just an ambassador. I just share the goodness of what it's all about, and it really does work. My blood work for the last 5 years shows that I'm getting healthier and healthier each time.
Fantastic.
Kidneys, liver, inflammation, white blood cell count. So what happens is when we stress the body responds. And what we're doing is we're training our cardiovascular system, because we know
Mm-hmm.
that inflammation is the root result of dis-ease. Look at the word dis-ease. So
Yeah.
when we have dis-ease in the body, and it could be anything from processed foods to sedentariness, what's happening is we're deregulating our hormonal release because we're sedentary, living in warm, comfy rooms. We're not challenging our body anymore. So then what happens is which starts to deregulate our hormonal system. So it's creating things like adrenal fatigue, things like autoimmune issues like lupus, Lyme's, Crohn's, Addison's, Hashimoto's, Raynaud's, fibromyalgia,
Right.
diabetes, obesity, and cancers, some
Mm-hmm.
cancers, And so what's happening is the body's eating itself from the inside out, right? And
Right.
now this is just a proven scientific fact. So what happens is we're in this sedentary trance of chronic inflammation in the body, right?
Right.
So what we do now is when we go into the heat or the cold, or through the breath work, we zap the body with fresh adrenaline, right?
Mm-hmm.
Epinephrine, cortisol, and
Right.
adrenaline, and that fresh adrenaline snaps the body out of its trance, out of the chronic trance of what it was, because it
Absolutely.
says that because when you go into the cold, the body says, right, I've got to deal with this now. I'm going to stop the deregulating hormonal release, and I'm going to really give you fresh adrenaline, cortisol, and epinephrine to deal with this real world situation. Because when you go
Right.
into the cold, you are in a mortal situation, and you can succumb to the mortality of the cold. So that's
Yeah.
why it's a gradual approach. I've been doing this for 6 years.
Mhm.
I'm a former instructor. I was also a Navy diver for 18 of my 24 years. So I was a professional hypothermic, right? I've frozen hundreds of times now. I left the infantry because it was cold and wet to become a
Mhm.
Navy diver, which was colder and wetter.
Wow.
So yeah,
You have incredible just tapestry of life. Like honestly,
mm,
you to me, I said this to you before, like I could literally talk to you for hours and hours. You have
mm,
such this crazy background with all kinds of, intricate little cool pieces.
mm,
Wanted to touch on that because of course, pagan lifestyle, you know, witches truly do feel connected to nature. And I can't say that I go jump in an ice pond,
not
but
yet.
not yet, but it's a pretty cool concept. And, we're all about, Amanda actually is learning to become a herbalist and is very much, we're both very, she does her nature breaks every day for the
Hmm.
followers. We're always about, get out into nature, get out there because it truly, like you said, we are nature. That's who we are, So we're all about that. So that's super cool. I wanted to talk about that, but in an effort not to skip other things, I want to get your take on because we did talk about manifestation briefly because you talked about how you manifested your beautiful wife by making your list and sending it out there to the universe. But tell me a little bit more about what your thoughts are on like switching that paradigm in our brain that brings us from the negative and turning it into the positive so that we can allow I don't know, I should have asked you this before we came on, but you're so open about it that I want to just bring it out there that you've had this incredible loss. You've lost your son a couple of years back. And I can't imagine that debilitating pain, being a parent myself and going through that grief. And I worked for many, many years in funeral homes and some incredibly sad stories. And we always, I guess, have that opportunity of allowing for life to kind of close our heart or open our heart or
Hmm.
make us bitter or make us better. So tell me a little bit about how you shifted such a negative experience into such as, being this beautiful positive light that's just helping people. Like, tell me all about that. I want to know.
Well, yeah, that's a great question, a very personal question. So, the summation of this, I'll just start with the conclusion, is it's not what happens to us that matters. It's how we choose to respond to it that does, right?
Right.
And from what I've seen in life and all the things I've been in, I've gone overseas. I've seen horrific things. As a Navy diver in Canada, I've had to deal with pretty horrible situations. But again, it's not what happens to us; it's how we choose to respond. So yes, in the beginning, it's completely overwhelming and can shut us down, and it can be as simple as a single parent,
Mm-hmm.
right? Trying to
Yeah.
make life happen, right? So stress is stress, right? So
Right.
we have to honor that everyone's story and everyone's stress is a personal journey, right? And
Right.
we're all doing the best we can with what we've got, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how I learned to deal with that situation, the loss of my son, was through presence. Yoga saved my life, meditating, um, and being present. Because if I was present, I wasn't remembering the pain, right?
Right. I
Even
think
though it
that.
was still a current situation. And I still have my moments, just a couple of Fridays ago, I just my boy's birthday was on the 1st of March. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a heavy time. And I just
Right.
know now that uh, because I've studied the mechanism of our perception, that our thoughts lead to our feelings lead to our actions, and our actions lead to our results. Our thoughts and feelings happen on the inside, and the results of life happen on the outside. And the bridge between the inside world and the outside world is action. So if we do nothing, nothing happens.
Right.
So the reality is, my boy was in a motorcycle accident, and we were
Mm-hmm.
able to gather around him while he took his last breaths. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it
Mm-hmm.
was through love, of knowing that love transcends the physical boundaries of life,
Yeah.
right? And just really holding the
You're
love.
gonna, I'm sorry because I feel what you're saying.
Yeah.
It is
So,
definitely that. That's my biggest thing. I always tell people, if there's, I think, what you just said, I want to touch on that again because that is so the truth. Like we are all energy and it's just a different frequency. Like it's not, it's the end of the physical, but it's not the end of the spirit. So,
right,
you know,
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So presence was the key, but also when pain comes up, like those great waves of grief that come up, I've just learned to be present to the moment of the pain because
Mm-hmm.
it's going to pass. This too shall pass. So I just stay present to it and then allow it to really just pass through. Just again, feelings are like flatulence, right? They are just better out than in, and it's a process of the body. So I've just learned to really process, breathe into whatever I'm feeling, and just let it out. Don't hold on to it. Don't try to suppress it or even
Mm-hmm.
give it any thought. I actually give it no mind, and I just stay completely present to it and just keep breathing. And
Right.
then, just like anything, like a good uh, sneeze or burp, or it's just better out than in. I just stay present to it and allow it to dissipate naturally.
Right.
Right? I don't go into the part where I replay that image of pain because that image of pain's one image. It's a moment in time when I learned about the loss of my son, right?
Yeah.
The accident. But
Yeah.
I still have 30 years of life that we've lived, right? The
Exactly.
adventures that we had. So when I feel that pain, I honor the pain, I stay
Yeah.
present to it, but then I let it pass and, go back to the love that we do have. Because,
Exactly.
when we have the eyes and the ears to listen and be open to it, the signs are there. But
Exactly.
but we have to ask, right? Because the classic phrase is ask and it is given. If we don't ask, we're not going to see the signs. But if we truly open our hearts to them, our loved ones can communicate. And that's
100.
just, yeah.
Yeah. I
I've got hundreds of stories of connection to people that I've known that have passed on, and it's only unique to me. It wouldn't make any sense to anybody else, but that's why spirit can talk to us
definitely.
through the technology of today, through songs, through music, through the synchronicities of life at those times. But we got to
Yeah.
be open to it. And again, this conversation isn't for everybody because if you're happy and you know it, right? So, but if this conversation is interesting and we want deeper connection to ourselves and nature, we have to hang out in it long enough to make that connection.
Definitely.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
I truly believe that. I'm gonna just gonna move here a little bit for a second. I want to make sure I just realize with sorry, I just remembered. I realized with all the commotion that my ringer was still on my phone. I just want to make sure I got rid of that. Yeah, so no, I just, thank you for sharing that with us, Brent. I know that's super personal story. But I do, I truly believe in speaking our truth and sharing our stories. And it does give somebody else that lift, and that understanding. And so thank you for that. I wanted to also ask you, you were mentioning, about, uh, you know, the manifestation and like we're all about the magic in life and seeing the signs and believing them and asking for them and receiving them. And that's the whole premise behind magic. It's just the intention of our thoughts. Like, could you expand on that a little? Like, how is it have this, like, how have you managed to shift that in your mind to kind of bring,
Hmm.
you know, around the magic, I guess?
Right, certainly. Great question. Well, again, through the study of all those people I talked about, from
Yeah.
the 1880s to the 1920s, it seemed like the church no longer had a hold or a bridlement on because of the Gutenberg press, and in the 1920s it was the rush, and so people were able to produce printed works that had
Mhm.
ancient knowledge. So if you look uh, uh, from the 1880s to the 1920s, there's a plethora of manifesting law of attraction type of books. Thoughts Are Things by Prentice Mulford. There's Thomas Troward.
Just,
There's numerous people.
I'm so sorry, Brent.
Go ahead.
I want you to continue speaking for the followers and the people that are viewing. I'm going to step out of the frame only because my children are going to run through here like bats out of hell and interrupt everything. So you continue speaking.
Oh,
So
certainly.
this is single mom life. I apologize. Continue talking. I'm going to step out of the frame for one
Sure,
sec.
certainly. Awesome. So what we learned was from those books is that, so for me, in being a student of life and studying what I've learned, for me it was finding those applications, the golden nuggets, and the breadcrumbs for me was the application. What did Aristotle, Newton, what did all those people do in their ability to create their life? And so they actually told us, and they wrote it down. And So the key to it, I find, to manifest, again, a dream job, a dream spouse, a dream house. I give workshops on this. And so the key to it is understanding what we truly want in life, because we can ask for a lot of things, but the genie's a little mischievous and can really give us things, right? So what we focus on, we do really attract into our lives. As
Right.
they say, we always hit the tree that we're looking at, whether we're driving or skiing, right? Because we're focusing on it. Or the new car effect. When I buy that new car, I notice all the other same cars out there, right? It's kind of
Right.
like the algorithms on the Amazon or wherever. It's what we focus on. It could be puppy videos, whatever. So we need to be clear about what we want. For me, the first, like when I came up with my dream girl, it was just a list I had in my heart, because
Right.
this is truly how I felt. And so during a meditation about 5, 6 years ago, the actual phrase came to me, because the adepts and the initiates always talk about say it in the present positive tense, but then they have never given us an example of it. But when
Right.
I was doing down dog about 5, 6 years ago, and so while I was in that yoga position, the words came to me as, what's the feeling of having your drums set up,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And because my drums were in a travel case, they'd been in there for 6 years. I was at the time a custom knife maker. I had a knife making shop, but I wanted to make more music, because I read an Abraham Hicks card that said, do more of that which makes you happy and less of that which doesn't. So I just wanted to make more music. I wanted
Yeah.
live music in my life.
Right.
And so the voice said to me, what's the feeling of having your drums set up, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it was the sense of accomplishment, because my drums were in a travel box. The drums were unpacked, set up, cymbals, sticks, and that sense of accomplishment of, yes, they're set up. The very next day, Jerry from Cornerbrook calls me up, and he says, hey, Rye, I see that you've got knife making equipment. What do you want for it? I says, well, I haven't seen that ad on Kijiji for 2 years. What am I selling it for? He says, you're selling it for 29. I says, I'll take 27. He goes, sold. He shows up on the Thursday, backs up his monstrous 3/4 ton truck into my garage. We load
Mm-hmm.
everything up, and he takes it one time. The whole
Mm-hmm.
thing gone. Once he
Yeah.
leaves, I haul my travel case of drums up. It takes me 6 hours to set them all up. And at the
Yeah.
end of it, I just sent back, and I just like sat back and went, yes, that sense of accomplishment. Bam.
Yeah.
This is the sham wow moment. In that very moment, it was the exact same feeling I had on the Monday, because this is
Right.
Thursday. On the Monday, that feeling of accomplishment, of what's the feeling of having them set up, that's the exact same feeling I had on the Thursday when I actually had them finally set up.
Wow.
So if I was to say, how do we manifest? Well, again, a dream job, because for me, it's the dream job, dream spouse, dream house. These are
Yeah.
kind of the three biggies in our life. So for me, it's about, making a list,
Mm-hmm.
writing it down and just sitting with it, and then knowing in our heart, what's the feeling of your dream job being set up? What's the
Right.
feeling of your dream spouse? And what's the feeling of your dream house?
Yeah.
So for me, that's the technique I use to find those in my life. And so when Kellyanne and I came up with the dream house concept, I'd been studying the MLS real estate for 3 months. And I knew every property within the parameters of what we were looking for in Newfoundland, or at least on the Avalon. And so we made sketches. Kellyanne drew in her sketchbook. It's right over there, where she drew pictures of the house. We talked about it in design and layout. And
Mm-hmm.
then about a week later, no, that was in March. In June, Life Energy wakes me up. It's 3 in the morning, and it shakes me, and it says, go online, go find your house. It was just like
Oh,
that. And it
that's
was
so.
just like, what? Like, where's that? So I go back to bed, and then I got shaken. Go online, go find your house. And I said, babe, I got to go online and go find her house. And she goes, whatever, bubblehead. And off I went. So I spent the next 3 hours, I'm like down on Google 85 pages later, and I find this little website. It was two spouses that sell houses here in
Mm-hmm.
Newfoundland. And I'm checking out, I can't quite make out the thumbnails, but the description of this one house was pretty cool. And so I emailed it to Kellyanne. I went to bed at 6:30. She got up,
Yeah.
and she checked her email, and she goes, wow. And she enlarged the thumbnail. She goes
Mm-hmm.
over to her sketchbook, and in her
Mm-hmm.
sketchbook shows like an A-framey style house and a shop slightly right to the rear. The MLS thumbnail shows a semi-viceroy house with a shop right to the rear. The thumbnail and the sketch are identical.
Oh,
And
wow.
we had in that the both of us worked at it, and for what was the name of the book? So I read a book at that time, but 3 months prior. It was called The Master Key, actually in January, The Master
Yeah.
Key System
Yeah.
by, I can't remember. It'll come to me, but it's called The Master Key System. But it used the power of your mind to imagine.
Right.
So we, instead of using the drills in the book, we used our house. So both of us were living in our house daily while we meditated on the house. And out of 20 criteria, we've got 18 out of our listed criteria of
I
what we
love
wanted in a house. Yeah.
because I truly believe, like people say, well, we talk about vision boards and different
Hmm.
things, and we say, you know what, I want this, or I really hope to have this, or dream or aspire to have this. But if you don't believe it, then the energy is blocked. So
Right, right.
people, you just made a great point. Like you almost have to attach an emotion to it. You almost
Well,
have to have gratitude or that energy out there that it's already yours. So I love that you mentioned that because it is true. Like we really can manifest our best lives if you truly believe in your heart you're deserving of it.
well,
Um,
we're really manifesting it anyways. That's the neat part that I like to get into in the workshops is that you're doing it anyways.
right.
We're living life anyways. So we
Hmm.
always have an option to choose better.
Right.
And that's what at least that's my nature is, I'm a Sagittarian. I'm a Saggy, right?
Oh,
So,
adventure
uh, but,
seeker. The adventure seeker.
right. So
What?
it's for me, life has always worked out. For me, everything has always been all right. Everything is okay. Everything
Yeah.
always works out. So that's just my nature. And I'm fortunate to have been born a Sagittarian.
Yeah.
So, because that's what I choose to focus on. I always choose to make it a better experience, right?
Exactly.
Like the
Once.
Sarge told me in the infantry is any person can be cold, wet, or hungry, but with a little initiative, a little imagination, a little inventiveness, you can live quite comfortably.
Yes. Yes. No, that's the whole thing that we were just talking about. You have in every opportunity in your life to look at something as though it's not, happening to you. It's every single experience, good, bad, and different, all pushes us towards, tries to propel us down our path, but we can totally stop ourselves by
Mm.
staying stuck in that heavy energy, that negative energy. So
Hmm.
try to get the vibration up, and that's where it comes from. It comes from that energy of gratitude and believing that you're deserving of it. So that's so cool. Like you got your wife, you got your house, you got your perfect job.
Hmm.
God, what else do you want? A couple of dogs. You got any dogs?
Not yet.
Yeah, get the dog.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no,
So with that, it is the emotion because that's the key. That's the anchors. What's the feeling of it being set up? So
absolutely.
again, so that's an easy the triad there of job, house, and spouse is
Hmm.
what's the feeling of it being set up? And then like Wallace, he wrote a book, The Science of Getting Rich. But for me, it's not actually about a monetary value. It's about wealth of life, quality of life,
Right,
right? So and what Wallace, his book was written in 1912. What he says in that is just simply do everything every day, all that can be done to make it happen.
right.
And then so it's an Olympic mindset, and it doesn't matter if you believe in the woo-hoo or not. But the fact is, it's no different than an Olympic mindset. When an Olympian gets up each day, they focus on and they say to themselves, "That's my gold medal." They're just
Hmm.
holding it for me for a while. So
Exactly.
when we just get up and work and say, "Hey, it's happening," I
Hmm.
just got to do some work now,
Yeah,
right? Because I find that there is a path to our peace of mind. There's a path to our understanding, but it comes with a warning. There might be a little bit of work involved. But once we truly commit to that path is relatively short. Again,
right.
because the accomplishment of our goals is assured the moment we commit ourselves. Again, don't take my word for it. It's only my best guess.
Yeah.
But once we commit to that path, it is assured. But we have
Oh,
to stay, not have to, it's, when we stay process oriented versus outcome. It's
yeah.
like maintaining my intention to be present versus the expectation. I know they use the word expectation, but I found that we needed to come up with a word that differentiated between an intention and an expectation. Because if I'm expecting it and it doesn't happen, I'm disappointed. Whereas I just intend to live well. And then when these things that I focused on a while ago show up, it's like, wow, that
There
showed
they,
up, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, I love that. I truly could just talk to you all day. You're the best,
Well,
honestly.
likewise.
We're just so grateful that you took the time to on here with us today. Like truly, I know you're a super busy guy, so
No, no,
mm,
I'm not busy anymore because busy is living someone else's dream. But I
yeah,
am at, but I
fun.
am active.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I see your videos of plunging into ponds with ice everywhere, so I always look at them and think, ooh, but it's a, brave soul, brave soul. But
Thank you.
um, anybody else on here, or we're gonna upload this so that it stays on the page for people to kind of watch after the fact. But Amanda also saying thank you so much. She's been watching. She loved it. But we want to know, like, if people are wanting to find you, how do they find you? Do they go on Facebook would be best? Like, how do people get you if they want to find out more about you?
Certainly. So I've got a couple of points of contact. One is my website, besh.ca, besh.ca. And then the other one's the Newfoundland Winter Tribe on Facebook. I like to, in my journey to become an instructor, we needed to do 6 workshops before that. So I wanted to create firstly, a small group of people
Mm-hmm.
that I could work with because you need to practice the workshops, right?
Right.
So in doing so, I wanted to come up with a name I wanted a tribe, I wanted a Newfoundland, and it was winter based because I like the seizing the winter. It's like, again, it's a great time. There's no mosquitoes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, the winter here is fabulous. And again, to do the cold exposure, if one's interested in the cold exposure or the breathing techniques, you can go to wimhofmethod.com. There's 3 free courses there. He is an amazing human being. I've met him several times now. I love him, love his family. He's truly making change. He should receive the Nobel Peace Prize because
Oh,
he's, as a single human being, done more to inspire people to live well. And the techniques work, the mindset, the breath control, and the cold exposure uh, work. And Harvard Medical Institute now has got chapter 22 is all on the Wim Hof method, how the activation of the fight flight response through breathing suppresses inflammation in the body. The hormetic stresses from the cold suppresses inflammation in the body, also activates norepinephrine and all these feel good dopamine, serotonin for the body. And also, again, it makes for an amazing selfie,
oh,
So,
for sure. For sure.
yeah.
That is one that will go down in the books, I'm sure, for many people who do that. But no, we're so grateful that you took this time with us. Like, you're just such an inspiring and interesting human being in spirit. So thank you for doing this. I'll just encourage anyone and everyone who's listening and will watch this later to find you because you're just a super great guy. So thank you, Brent. I really appreciate it. And
Thank you, Leslie. And again, I can't be more honored to be asked to share my story on this page. So
yeah,
again, thank you for asking.
thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, my dear.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.